From Cambiano, northwest of Italy, welcome to the GCN Show!
Welcome to the GCN Show.
Coming up this week, having offended half of Italy and beyond last week with my comments about Marco Pantani, we tried to get to the bottom of why some drug cheats are still considered heroes and yet others villains.
For the record, Sai is now in witness protection over those comments. We're also going to reveal the most popular songs for cycling, an update on the world's toughest bike race, the Transcontinental, and we reveal which lucky person has won the brand new Orbea Orca.
And the winner is...
going to be revealed later.
Ooh.
This week in the world of cycling, we learned that Demi Vollering is the new queen of the Tour de France. She crushed the Tour de France femme avec Zwift, winning solo on the Col de Tourmalet by nearly 2 minutes and winning the GC by over 3.
Annemiek van Vleuten's run of 6 consecutive Grand Tour victories therefore came to an end. And in fact, she could only finish 4th.
But what a legend.
Yeah.
Team Ceratizit won the competition for the best team car, though.
They did indeed. We also learned this week that this year's new must-have bikepacking accessory is a catamaran.
It is going to add a little over 5 metres in length and 156 kilos to your bike, but only set you back €14,000.
Bargain. We also learned that a new version of the world's most expensive, fastest, and perhaps ugliest bike has just been released. Yes, the British cycling Hope Lotus track bike is as striking as ever, but now it's got a new 3D printed seat post looking like a similar concept to the Trek Madon A-Hole.
Do you like it?
No, I really don't.
But it's probably fast.
It's probably exceedingly fast, but it reminds me of a shopping trolley.
Huh?
I don't know why, I just can't get a shopping trolley out of my
Well,
head.
check some local rivers, you might be in for a Lotus. Anyway, going back to the Madon, we've also learned that the Strava KOM up that climb near Nice has been broken for the first time in 7 years by none other than Tour de France runner-up Tadej Pogačar.
That's right, because what else would you do when recovering from the Tour de France? Previous holder Richie Porte is unlikely to be able to retake it, having retired and moved back to Tasmania. But nevertheless, Pogačar encouraged him to try to do exactly that in the title that he gave to his ride.
Yeah, he was really trolling him there, wasn't he? Anyway, for those of you who want the numbers, Pogačar's time was 23 minutes and 53 seconds, so 30 seconds clear of Porte, 8.5 minutes in front of Sai, and 17 minutes in front of my best time up that climb.
Which I think was on an e-bike, wasn't it?
Might well have been, yes.
Yeah. Is there anything Pogačar can't do other than win the Tour de France?
Well, he has done that twice, but I reckon he'd also struggle with this. Puck Pizza there, showing that she can not only finish 5th in Strade Bianche and win World Cups in both cyclocross and mountain biking, but she also has skills to die for.
Yeah.
Right, shall we reveal the winner of the Orbea Orca M10i Limited Power now?
No, not yet. Although, I can reveal that the winner's first name contains an M.
Well, that's me out, isn't it?
It is, indeed. I am still in with a chance, though.
I know.
Yeah. Right, now, as mentioned in the introduction, the main topic of the GCN show last week caused a bit of a stir when part of it was clipped up and put on our Instagram.
Yeah, and looking at the disparity in the types of comments under those clips versus those on the YouTube video last week for the GCN show, it's quite likely that the lack of nuance and context around the shorter clip on Instagram was what made it sound so controversial. But at the same time, it wasn't really right of us to single out one single rider of that era, particularly one who paid the biggest price for the dark place the sport was in at that time. So for that, we sincerely apologise.
Indeed. It did get us thinking, though, didn't it, about why some ex-dopers are vilified, why others are tolerated, and then why a few, like Pantani, are still worshipped, basically. Because we wouldn't talk or think in the same way about Ricardo Rico as we would about Jonathan Vaughters, for example, even though both of them cheated whilst they were riding professionally.
Yeah, and some people I think might say it's because of an English-speaking bias on our side, and maybe there is something in that. But I would say it's more because Rico seemed a bit unrepentant or very unrepentant when he was caught doping, whilst Wouters was later at the forefront of trying to make professional cycling a much cleaner sport.
Yeah, it's something that's a bit of a no-win situation as a commentator or as a presenter in cycling, isn't it? If you don't mention a rider's controversial past when you're talking about a performance result, you're likely to get quite a few comments from people who are in disbelief that you can make those comments without also making any mention of their previous indiscretions.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, if you do mention somebody's controversial past when you're talking about a rider or performance, you will get a lot of comments along the lines of, well, they've had their punishment, they've served their time, and they deserve to be able to move on from that.
Yeah, I remember that's what happened actually on this show back in, it was like 2018, September time, I guess, when we mentioned Alejandro Valverde's previous doping ban, whilst simultaneously discussing his win at the UCI Road World Championships in Austria that year.
It was in Austria that year, yes. And those comments we read, didn't we? We took them on board, as we always do, but without really coming to any kind of conclusion as to how we should approach a similar situation if one arose again. It's something that I often read if we ever mention Merckx and his statistics. Merckx tested positive 3 times during his career, and one of those led to him being expelled from the 1969 Giro d'Italia whilst leading the race.
Yeah, in fact, we can bring that back to Marco Pantani as well for a second, because that's exactly what happened to him 30 years later. I mean, literally 30 years later, wasn't it? I'm midway through an excellent BBC podcast, by the way. Sport's Greatest Crimes was Pantani's ejection from the Giro related to race fixing.
I must listen to that.
Yeah.
I think, though, that the reasons why some dopers are revered and others reviled is, well, it's of course complicated, but it's rooted to how much we as individuals feel like we've been defrauded.
Yeah, exactly, because doping is a fraud, isn't it? A white-collar crime, so like a non-violent way of stealing money, effectively, thinking more Wall Street bankers or dodgy accountants than Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, it's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah.
How we then feel about a doper comes down to the extent to which we feel defrauded. And that is going to vary from person to person, of course. For me, it's important how much certain dopers are perceived to have pushed the boundaries of cheating, like Lance Armstrong perhaps, or maybe Bjarne Riis before him.
Yeah, Riis was an unlikely Tour winner, wasn't he? He kind of rose to prominence exceedingly quickly. He was pretty old. He was really tall, really broad, and so he kind of stands out somehow, as unfairly perhaps, as being worse than others. And yet, the year after, Jan Ullrich, who did seem like a worthy winner, because he was just like aesthetically perfect on a bike, but yet he was quite possibly
and a lot younger as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, doing exactly the same thing that Riis had been doing.
And then Lance, because he dominated the sport for so long, mistreated quite a few people along the way, and gained so much from it financially as well.
Yeah, it felt like a bigger fraud. Plus, the really complicated thing with Lance is that so many people were mentally invested in his incredible story from his comeback from cancer. So there's a lot of pain, I think, in them finding out that part of that story, the winning the Tour de France part, was a fraud.
But for a lot of riders in that era, they were part of the herd, I think, feeling like they didn't have a choice or that it wasn't even wrong because it was part of the job of being a professional cyclist in that era.
That's right, yeah. Some of those riders seemed like nice people, perhaps victims of circumstance who are in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so again, naturally, we perhaps might feel sorry for them or that they somehow weren't as bad as the more high-profile or the more prolific dopers.
Yeah, so even though they cheated too, we perhaps don't feel as cheated ourselves. And it can also be mitigated somewhat by what they did after doping, like Jonathan Wouters or even David Miller.
That's right. Some people do find them a bit sanctimonious, don't they, because they cheated and are now preaching. But for others, they're legitimately trying to make amends.
Yeah.
And for the record, that's kind of what I think too, really.
I think personality comes into this as well, doesn't it? And possibly language and nationality as well. If a rider does not speak the same language as we do, we might not know that they're actually a funny personality, quite cool, quite friendly. And so I think there is a tendency to judge people harsher if they're from a different country.
Yeah, which kind of goes to say, doesn't it, all of which is highly subjective. And this subjectivity no doubt contributes to the endless debate we have around dopers, and to which there is no right answer, I guess.
It's an endless debate, isn't it? But I will say that one of the reasons why I'm more confident in the riders that we're watching on TV now is that very few people get into sport and think, I can't wait to dope. So it makes sense to me that if you enter pro cycling at a time where there isn't a doping culture, you're much less likely to cross that line if it's not even a choice that you feel you need to make and it's not being normalised by those around you?
I'd love to meet someone that gets into sport going like, I want to dope.
Yes.
What does that person look like? I know that many people will point as well to the checkered history of some of the staff and management that are still working in World Tour teams and possibly wonder how there could possibly have been this radical change in culture that we think there has been. And to that, I would say that, well, firstly, people can change and that they maybe wouldn't have made the same choices that they made if they were of a different generation. But also those people are now in a position where they can actually help others from falling into that same trap.
Yeah, I would say that if Marco Pantani entered the pro peloton next year as a fresh-faced 19-year-old, he probably wouldn't dope.
No.
In fact, I'm almost certain he wouldn't. Would he still be one of the best cyclists in the world? Almost undoubtedly, yes.
Yeah. Back where we started, Marco Pantani. Now, personally, I don't think he should be beyond reproach. Knowing what we know about that generation now, I can't help but see there's always a certain comedy to that racing, isn't it, when you view it in that light? But equally, I completely appreciate that given his tragic end, his legacy does need to be handled sensitively and in the context of the era in which he was racing, where, as you say, he probably didn't have much of a choice.
So in conclusion then, there is really no conclusion. What you think of or how you talk about dopers is entirely up to you as an individual. If you think Marco Pantani is a legend of cycling, that is perfectly acceptable. But if you think of him only as a cheat, that's also fine.
Yeah. Over to you in the comment section now. How do you view riders who have been caught doping? Do you differentiate between different dopers based on their personality or their nationality? Or do you paint them all with the same brush, regardless of who they are, where they're from? Is it a black or white thing for you?
Let us know in the comment section down below.
And now it's time for cycling shorts.
Cycling shorts now, we're going to start with this really interesting story that we saw on ebikes.org.
Oh, by the way, the winner of that Orbea Orca, their surname contains an R. So you're still
Richardson!
in the game, Si.
Yes!
Anyway, back to ebikes.org, who've done some research into the most popular songs listened to by cyclists using Spotify playlists, which people have titled or tagged with cycling.
This is brilliant, okay? In number 3 is Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
One of my favourites.
Number 2 is Highway to Hell by AC/DC. And your number 1 is another one from AC/DC, Thunderstruck.
But Highway to Hell, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it says. In fact, the top 25 tracks were totally dominated by rock and metal, although, weirdly, the most popular artists were actually Drake, Kanye, and Eminem.
Not sure how that works, to
No,
be
I
honest.
don't know either.
They also had top artists and tracks for other fitness activities. Interestingly, Taylor Swift is only the 14th most popular artist for cyclists, but she's number 1 with runners.
There you go. After the disaster with my last playlist, I'm going to take notes from that.
What disaster did you have?
I made a playlist for a bikepacking race and it made me break down and cry, basically.
Love is brilliant. Love is pure.
To see the full list, head over to ebikes.org, which ironically I noticed claims that all of their stories are written by humans and not machines, which kind of made me chuckle because the same could definitely not be said for their cycling.
Yeah, very true. Made me chuckle as well, inside. Now, sticking with machines, the Transcontinental started a week ago and the leaders are already nearing the end of their 4,000 kilometre races after just 8 days of riding.
Mind-blowing, isn't it? So this is the unofficial World Championships of self-supported bikepacking races. It's now in its 9th edition, and currently, last year's winner, Christoph Strasser, is dominating proceedings, averaging 465 kilometres per day. He's averaging an extra 45k a day, in fact, over second place, who is Robin, I don't know how to say this, Gemperl?
I don't really know either.
Robin Gemperl?
Gemperl.
Robin Gemperl? I don't know. I'm terribly sorry, Robin. Maybe when you've recovered from your 4,000 kilometre epic, you could just let us know.
Yeah, or if you don't recover, somebody else might know and can also let us know in the comment section down below. Anyway, while the world's most bonkers ultra-endurance athletes are busy riding across Europe, bikepackers who know where it's at Well, they are still at the RAGBRAI.
They are. Boom. We had a few comments last week on the RAGBRAI, including Scuba Boy, who said he just got back from riding only one day of RAGBRAI. RAGBRAI. Man, what is going on with me today? And it's literally a non-stop party. He says there is food, pie, beer and music at every stop throughout a single day. And this year, they also said there were close to 50,000 people riding it. It was insane.
Presumably, many of the 50,000 participants are still partying their way across the state of Iowa now, which it turns out, in this AP article, is craft beer heaven.
Yeah. After last week's McDonald's facts, do you want some beer facts?
Oh, I would always love some beer facts.
Okay, right, I'm glad you said that. Overall, US beer sales decreased by 3% last year, according to the Brewers Association, which is, I guess, in part because you didn't go to the States last year. Fortunately, though, craft brewery sales remained stable, and that drove up the share of independent brewers to 13.2% by volume, but actually a quarter of sales by money.
Great facts, mate.
Yeah,
anyway, if you like beer, well, even if you don't actually, Hank is going to be hosting an evening with Wahoo at the Brewdog in Glasgow during the upcoming UCI World Championship. So he's going to be there on Tuesday, the 8th of August.
Yeah, you can pretty much guarantee that that will be good fun. Having seen Hank doing live events,
yeah,
it's something to behold, isn't it, really?
He's born to be behind a mic live, isn't he? He's reluctant to let the microphone go to anyone else, I will say that.
No, it might be a long evening, actually. He might just get thrown out by the bouncers at closing time. Anyway, we did get a fair few comments, by the way, under last week's show about our Tour de McDonald's Dallas ride idea. Chris Capoccia says Dallas is 15 times the size of London. Yeah, that's bonkers, isn't it? And so it would be a pretty big ride to get to all the McDonald's, of which there were 62. But then he says, I think the bigger problem with trying to fuel from only their food would be hydration, because you'd overdo the sodium long before you got all of them. So
eating 62 McDonald's on one ride would be a far bigger, far more dangerous test of human endurance than the Tour de France and the Transcontinental put together.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Now, many of you will know of Kilian Jornet, perhaps the world's greatest ultra runner. Like today, Pogacar and Annemiek van Vleuten rolled into one, effectively.
Yeah, one mega athlete.
Yeah. However, I saw on his Instagram last week that he's currently injured, so he has taken to cycling instead.
Yeah, I was very interested to read this. Like, given how amazing he is at ultra running and ski mountaineering, watch out World Tour. So hopefully for his sake, he's not off running for long, because I think that's where his heart lies. But for our sake, I would love to see what he could do on a bike.
Well, 103.79 kilometres, according to Strava.
Well, yeah, I kind of meant long term rather than his first ever ride. But anyway, now moving on, we talked last week, didn't we, about the issue of motor doping in pro racing having gone a little bit quiet. So it was very good to read that it's not gone quiet because the UCI has given up. Instead, according to their statement they released last week, they actually carried out 997 tests during the men's Tour de France, all of which were negative.
837 tests were looking for electromagnetic activity on the bikes before the start, and then furthermore, in-depth tests using X-rays were done each day on the stage winner, yellow jersey bike, and 6 other randomers.
Yes, a bit like normal dope tests, wasn't it? Like random dope tests every day. Now, we promised you, didn't we, the results of our epic Orbea Orca competition. So, the winner is...
Should we read it out later?
Yeah, go on then.
I can tell you though, their surname does not contain an I.
Damn it!
Hack /Bodge of the week. This is actually take 2 because I did a real bodge of the first pronunciation. Don't forget you can get involved by submitting your hacks and or bodges to the GCN app, and you can also vote on them over there as well. First up, this one from Alexander Porto. Acoustic box to reduce the noise of old smart trainers. Some big foam sheets, used spokes, glue, a sushi knife, and I reduced the noise of the Elite Diretto worn bearing and also the gear change clicks. The objective here is to reduce the noise and echo to not propagate the white noise to all apartments. It reduces at least 30% as I can measure it with my phone.
Wow. I'm pretty impressed with that.
Looks like a decent job, doesn't it?
It does look decent.
I mean, you could do that with any trainer. None of them are really quiet, are they?
No. For me, though, I think it's less about the noise that emanates outwards, but it was always that goes down through the house. Yeah, so make sure you put one underneath as well, Alexandre. I think that's a hack. personally.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel the need, but glad you do.
Well, just, yeah, it looks well constructed, so I'll say hack as well. And it was a hack from 77% of you.
Ooh, nice one. Okay, next up, John Moram. Lost cleat bolt. Morning commute, got to work and tried to unclip. Uh-oh, and realised I'd lost a bolt out of my cleat. That's one of those heart-sink moments, isn't it? Hopefully you got your foot out. So I had to think, as I didn't want the lift of shame. Is that where you phone up neutral service, get a lift home? I realised that braze-on bolts that fit water bottles and racks will also fit Shimano SPDs. There you go. Only really works if you have a pan head bolt. You want to know what that is?
I guess it's a slim head, isn't it? So it doesn't protrude beneath the cleat.
Good guess. Anyway, there you go. May have been covered, but thought it was a definite hack. I think possibly it has been covered many moons ago. But yeah, there you go. Look at that.
That
Pretty
is cool,
neat,
isn't it? Yeah, well, I'm definitely giving that a hack.
I'm giving that a hack as well, yeah.
For some reason, 10% of you said that was a bodge.
What?
I mean, what are you thinking?
That does seem a bit mean, doesn't it? It means you didn't phone up neutral service.
This one came in from Andrew Watts. When the hire shop didn't have a Wahoo holder, it's time to improvise. Everyone is wanting those Wahoo skin wraps from the Tour de France. Any takers?
Well, it's
It's yellow.
It's a different look, yeah, to the previous one with was it gaffer tape or
It
electrical
was
tape?
gaffer tape, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going bodge straight away.
I'm going Bodge as well, that's horrific.
It is a very similar yellow to the Tour de France yellow, isn't it? But 78% of you said that was a bodge, understandably.
Yeah.
Which means 22% thought that was a hack.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, finally then, we got this one from Isaac Confew. Zip tie for life. Cycling around the Salisbury Plain gravel epic when my friend Dave's sole came away from the bottom of his shoe. Quick stop at the aid station for some zip ties. Oh God. Ready to get back on the trails. Last of the race and a good permanent solution to broken soles. That is a disgrace.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a roadside / trailside hack. I'll agree. But no, yeah, I mean...
Well, I mean, it gets you...
don't it?
Yeah, it depends how you look at it. We never really properly... Well, I think we did once properly define what a hack and a bodge was. And I've completely forgotten how we defined it. Hack to get you home, but yeah, don't leave the zip ties on. Just get a new pair of shoes.
Hack to
Or
get you home.
Very strong glue.
Bodge for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the results on that one is that it was 100% a hack.
Goodness me.
Which I think means that this was screen grabbed as soon as it was put up. And,
Isaac, did you
and
cheat?
Isaac that put it up voted hack.
Yes, I think there might have been insider trading. Basically, I feel slightly defrauded by this one.
Yeah.
I mean, how big a fraud do you think it is, like on a scale of...
Well, I will
like-
check back on, because I've got a link to it here. And I can tell you that this time next week, the majority will be saying bodge.
There we go. Cool, right. Well, there we go then. And that is Hack or Bodge for this week. As Dan said, get involved. Head over to the GCN app. You can upload your own hacks and bodges and also check in on all the others on there. There's an awful lot.
There are a lot, yeah.
Quite a few might be related to the choices of sticks that I've been using instead of shadow stands. But anyway, more on that later. It's time now for Caption Competition, that part of the show where you get a chance to get your hands on a coveted GCN Elite water bottle. Back to black this week. Or clear or red. I don't know what the distinction is.
I believe that this is the first time ever where we have two winners. We just couldn't decide for who
No, we
should take
couldn't.
the win.
Both of them
We've
were
had
brilliant.
honorary mentions before, haven't we? And then
Yeah.
a winner. But this time we're pushing the boat out, aren't we? We're giving away two GCN Elite water bottles.
We haven't asked for permission, have we?
No. Well, only one of you might receive said bottle due to budgetary reasons. But
Computer says no.
Right, first winner. Aaron Spivak 8197. Caption: if you give me any more yellow, they're going to call me jaundice vinegar.
Jaundice.
Yeah, I was just trying to do it in a French accent.
You see, that made it even funnier. There we go then. And then the other winner is Spencer Lemon 2679. This year's Tour de France, won by Jonas Vingegaard. Get it? Won by? SRAM won by?
Oh, I thought that was a cracking.
Nice. I
They
wonder
both
whether...
are, they both are.
They are. I wonder whether SRAM should actually use that in their marketing material. Maybe they should buy that joke.
Well, yeah.
Because I feel like that is like, you could imagine that on the headers of websites for months.
It's a shame that you can't charge money for ideas like that, is it?
Can you not
can't
register as
patent-
intellectual
can't pay-
property?
No, maybe. Get on it, Spencer. You can make some money here.
Yeah.
Anyway, well done to Aaron and to Spencer. Get in touch with us on Facebook with a message and your address. We'll get a bottle sent out to each of you. This week's photo comes from the podium of the Classica San Sebastian, won by Remco Evenepoel. Hey, Peo, is this a peak up or a peak down kind of hat?
I like that. I mean, you're helped by the fact that it's an amusing looking photo.
Yeah, that does always help, doesn't it? Anyway, get involved in the comments with your captions and we'll pick one winner this time next week.
Do you think that photo needs any context, by the way?
The race is in the Basque Country and so you get given a traditional Basque hat. I forget the name of it now.
And that Pele Bilbao is a Basque rider,
Yeah.
so he knows how to wear that hat. Just in case you were wondering.
Not sure if it helps my caption, but there you go. There is a lot coming up for you on GCN and GCN Plus this week, which we'll shortly tell you about. But first up, we've picked out a few favourite comments, starting with this underneath last week's show from Kunzwell2309. I'm from the dark era, and I was disappointed at the time.
Starting it.
Yeah, but watching Pinot's stage in the Vosges Mountains showed me what it's all about again. Riding up a mountain with zillions of people from all over the world, peacefully screaming their lungs out at one rider, and all of it in peace. I had goosebumps. That was a magical moment of the tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? What people often say is like, we've been through it, but it's an amazing spectacle and, you know, emotional roller coaster. And it is, isn't it? That is very true. Then we also had this one from Vulcan MTB. You should devote an entire show on why the fans lining the course are such complete assholes. Running alongside cyclists with your butt hanging out, punching riders, throwing things at them, hurling insults, and outright tripping them. They really should give the riders a stick to hit the spectators.
Or a shadow stand.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny, you know, like that's absolutely true. But also, I really didn't like it when the boss of Jumbo-Visma suggested he was going to sue that spectator that took out, was it Sepp Kuss?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not sure that's really like in the spirit of things either, is it?
No, I think they threatened to do that for Opie Omi woman.
They did, yeah. Lefebvre threatened that, didn't he? I think somehow.
I think that was Jumbo-Visma as well, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
I think so, because it took out Tony Martin.
It
They don't
did.
do very well with fans, do they?
No, they don't. No. Oh, well, yeah.
Anyway, moving
We
on
digress.
to a couple of comments underneath. How fast are female Tour de France pros? We find out. Everyone was loving Ollie again in those
They
comments.
were
weren't they?
indeed, yeah.
A Diverge Road. That's a monster effort at 4.8 watts per kilo, Ollie. You did great. Ashley is a pro, and there is no way for us rookies to keep up with her. Whilst Demon2107, a lot of numbers in the usernames this week. I don't think he's an amateur at all. He's just a humble man.
Humble man.
Humble man.
I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, a humble man.
He's really humble.
Clearly.
Really
Yeah.
humble, isn't he?
Right, under cyclist versus runner, who is the better athlete? Andrew McAllister said it's good to see a GCN presenter actually prepared with a shadow stand and not just a stick and a rock. Do you know what? Like, I'm impressed by how many of you like deeply care about what the bikes are propped up with. So I think that's really cool, actually. I quite like the odd stick, but to be fair, actually, I did take a picture the other day of the first stick that I found for a tech video. But I think in hindsight, perhaps it's slightly big for the job.
Oh, is
so
it?
yeah, shadow stands going
Let's
back.
do some
yeah.
work on that.
Yeah.
Philip Cooper wrote in to say, a shark can swim faster than me, but I can run faster than a shark. So in a triathlon, it would come down to who is the better cyclist.
That's amazing. If you made up that joke, Philip, then that is an excellent joke. And if you nicked it from someone else, then fair play, because I like that very much. Right, and then AAJ Franklin said, tough one. Alex was definitely a better cyclist than Alex, but then Alex was a better runner than Alex. So it's clear to me that overall, with all things considered, Alex was the top performer here. Signed, Alex. So I think we got that cleared up, didn't we?
Yes, very good. All right, so what have we got coming up for you on GCN this week? Well, we'll start with GCN Plus, actually, because there's a lot. It's the start of the first ever Super UCI World Championships in Glasgow, where almost 200 rainbow jerseys are going to be earned by riders who've become new world champions across pretty much every discipline you can imagine, from the usual road cycling time trials that we're into, mountain biking, BMX, indoor cycling, gymnastics, I think it is as well. Yeah, it's got a lot. There's a lot to feast your eyes on, but there are quite a few territory restrictions. So you can watch that on GCN Plus if you're in Europe, excluding Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Italy. I think it is, but check that. I'll double check that. Beyond that, we've also got a couple of Brucey bonuses for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one is the PTO Triathlon, which is over 2 days this coming Friday and Saturday. A lot of the world's best triathletes competing there. And then,
Is that like an Olympic distance? Or is it a long one?
It's a between Olympic and Ironman, I seem to remember. It's like a
All
2K swim, 80K bike. Is it a half Ironman, I think, isn't it?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember how long the run is, but it's a
Middle distance.
Yeah, doable.
Yeah.
And we've also got the Audi Denver Liston Twilight Criterium, which is part of the American Criterium Cup. Notice that last year, Legion came 1, 2, 3 in the men's and 1, 2 in the women's.
Oof.
But they haven't been having it all their own way this year.
They have not, have they?
Usurped.
No, crikey. Well, that is a lot to watch. There was me thinking that after Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, it'd be a little bit of a breather.
Well, I got a couple of days, although the Tour de l'Ain is currently on.
Yeah, well, there you go then. Right, okay, well, obviously that's all going on GCN Plus. There is more, we'll tell you about that in a sec. But on GCN, just so we don't forget, Wednesday, how to ride steep climbs. Thursday, we've got mistakes that pro cyclists make. Friday, this one skill will transform your cycling. And this was basically when we were out at the Global Bike Festival. We did a load of riding with you guys. It was amazing. And then, anyway, we told people about this skill that will transform your riding. People were blown away by it. So anyway, we thought we'd make a video about it. On Saturday, Blake from GmbN versus Alpe d'Huez going up it.
From France.
Yes, that's right. On a road bike. And then Sunday, well, we are super chuffed, aren't we? So a bit of context. Super excited for you all to see a documentary that we've made in Nepal, in the Himalayas. It comes out on GCN Plus today. And then on Sunday, we've got basically a part of that epic ride. We tried to get a KOM in the Himalayas. So comm hunting in the Himalayas. But yeah.
Well, let's show people a trailer now. And after that trailer, we will reveal the winner of that Orbea Orca.
Ground to a halt. This has defeated me today. I'll be honest, it's actually quite unnerving being out here now because it's incredibly desolate.
We're riding our bikes to the top of the world.
Look how high we are, mate. Look at that drop. I have never ridden my bike anywhere close to a place like this.
A two-wheel pilgrimage
Bro!
we'll never forget.
I did find the meaning of life, so that was good.
I just can't believe where we are.
Himalayas, I love you.
We're headed for an ancient city, hidden from the rest of the world.
Low Man Tang, it's there, but it's just not getting any closer.
We have just 5 days to ride 446 kilometers and endure over 11,000 meters of this.
Long climbs are definitely not my forte. Oh, that went from the KOM attempt to survival.
We're tackling the cruelest conditions.
This road is not what I expected. Sometimes I'm the hammer, today I'm the nail.
I mean, look at the state of me. It is incredibly cold out there, and that altitude just gets you, doesn't it?
Immersing ourselves in the culture.
Powerful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Surrounded by the most breathtaking views on the planet.
Suddenly dawned on me what a huge landscape this is and how unforgiving it is.
This is the bikepacking trip of a lifetime.
Great stuff. As a reminder, that is out now for GCN Plus subscribers to watch. Right, we can actually have a drum roll now to reveal the winner, very lucky winner of this amazing bike. That person is...
Mikael Rosland. So congratulations to you. We will get in touch You don't even have to get in touch with us. We'll get in touch because we've got your email address.
Which is lucky, because I think even Mikhail, knowing that he contained the letters we've mentioned so far, that's pretty switched off by this point. Like, I can't sit through all this even to find out if I want a superbike.
There you go. But yeah, that was an epic prize. So thank you again to Orbea for putting that one up for a competition. Yep. Super cool, isn't it? Right then. There we go. That is the end of the GCN show for this week.
Well done, Mikhail. Well done to anyone who's got through this far. And I think I look forward to reading the comments.
That's right, yeah. Let us know what you think about the Himalaya film as well. I'd be really interested to read that too.